Be honest. Have you ever wanted to give up, but deep down you weren't sure if you truly wanted to stop, or if you were just exhausted and needed a deeper rest? Opening punch. Be honest. Have you ever wanted to quit, but something inside you whispered, wait, maybe you're not done yet. Maybe you're just tired. Here's the strange thing about exhaustion. It's sneaky. It doesn't show up wearing a big sign that says, I'm just fatigued, don't panic. No, it disguises itself as despair, as hopelessness, as the terrifying thought that your life is already behind you. And when you're between 50 and 80, that whisper gets even louder because society keeps pushing the idea that your best years are gone, but science disagrees. Psychologists have found that exhaustion changes how the brain interprets reality. A tired brain literally processes neutral situations as negative. That's why when you're sleep deprived or mentally drained, the smallest inconvenience feels like the end of the world. It's not failure talking, it's fatigue pulling the strings. Imagine trying to run a marathon with your shoelaces tied together. That's not proof you're weak. It's proof you need to stop, untie, and breathe. And here's the cruel trick. When we're exhausted, we don't ask ourselves, what if I just need rest? Instead, we assume, this must mean I'm finished. Think about it. How many times have you felt done, only to wake up the next day with a slightly clearer mind, and suddenly the mountain didn't look so impossible? That's not magic. That's your nervous system finally catching its breath. So if you're watching this, because life feels heavy, let me say it straight. Maybe it's not your dream that's broken. Maybe it's just your energy. And that's a much easier fix than you think. The hidden trap. Here's a weird trick life plays on us after 50. We confuse being drained with being done. You wake up tired, your joints ache, your patience runs thin, and suddenly the thought slips in. Maybe I just don't have it in me anymore. But exhaustion is a master of disguise. It puts on the costume of failure so convincingly that you start believing the show. Psychologists call this cognitive distortion. Your brain makes sweeping conclusions based on temporary states. Studies from Stanford show that older adults, when fatigued, often misinterpret tiredness as permanent decline. But here's the kicker. When those same participants rested properly, their sense of motivation and optimism bounced back to levels almost identical to people 20 years younger. So, the real trap isn't age. It's the story you tell yourself when you're low on energy. Think of it like a phone battery. At 5%, your phone lags, freezes, apps crash. But you don't say, well, guess my phone's too old. It's useless now. No, you plug it in. You wait. Then suddenly, it's working fine again. The problem wasn't the phone, it was the charge. Your body and mind work exactly the same way. The danger comes when you mistake, I need to recharge for I'm not capable. That's like throwing the phone in the trash instead of reaching for the charger. And sadly, many people do just that with their dreams. They give up at 65 or 70, not because the dream is impossible, but because they've misread tiredness as a full stop. So the first step is simple but radical. When you feel like quitting, pause and ask, am I really finished, or am I just fatigued? 9 times out of 10, you'll discover it's not the dream that's out of reach. It's just your energy running on fumes. Your brain on exhaustion. Imagine your brain as a giant flashlight. When it's fully charged, the beam is sharp, clear, and steady. You can see where you're going. But when the batteries are drained, the light flickers, dims, and suddenly every shadow looks like a monster. That's exactly how your brain behaves when you're exhausted. Neuroscientists at Harvard discovered that fatigue literally shrinks activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that makes rational decisions, solves problems, and tells you, relax, it's not the end of the world. Meanwhile, the amygdala, your brain's alarm system, lights up like a fire truck. Translation: when you're tired, you feel danger everywhere. Even if you're just dealing with the Wi-Fi being slow or your knees creaking on the stairs. Here's a quirky fact. One study found that people who missed just one night of sleep reacted to neutral facial expressions as if they were threats. So when you're drained, even a casual glance from someone at the grocery store can feel like judgment. No wonder life feels heavier than it actually is. Now, let's make it concrete. Have you ever noticed how problems look enormous late at night, but by morning, after a good rest, they've shrunk back to normal size? That's not magic. That's your prefrontal cortex coming back online. Exhaustion is basically your brain putting the drama filter on everything the next time you catch yourself spiraling. Thinking, I'm failing. I can't keep up. Maybe it's over. Pause. Ask, is this my truth? Or is this just my tired brain exaggerating? Chances are, it's the second one. Because exhaustion doesn't mean you've lost your spark. It just means your brain needs a nap, not a funeral. The body's silent SOS. Your body is sneakier than you think. It doesn't always shout, I'm tired. Sometimes it whispers in strange ways, like sudden clumsiness, forgetting why you walked into the kitchen, or craving sugar at midnight. These aren't random quirks. They're SOS signals from a body that's begging for rest. Doctors call it somatic exhaustion, when fatigue hides inside physical symptoms. For people between 50 and 80, it often shows up as stiffness, digestion issues, or even that foggy head feeling. And here's the ironic twist. Many ignore these signs, blaming them on just getting old. But science says otherwise. A Canadian study on older adults revealed that structured rest, like mindful breathing, gentle stretching, or even short naps, reduced these symptoms by nearly 40%. So no, it's not always age. Sometimes it's simply recovery overdue. Picture this. Your car's check engine light flashes on. Do you sell the car? Of course not. You take it to the shop, refill the fluids, tighten what's loose. Your body works the same way. When you feel sudden aches or irritability, it's not saying, you're broken. It's saying, please pit stop now. Here's a practical trick. Keep a fatigue journal for 1 week. Every time you notice an odd symptom, like yawning at 10 a.m. or snapping at the toaster for burning your bread, write it down. At the end of the week, patterns will jump out. And once you see the patterns, you'll know what your body has been trying to tell you all along. Slow down, recharge, Because the truth is, your body isn't plotting against you. It's not betraying you. It's just waving little flags, hoping you'll notice before you crash. Rest versus escape. Here's a funny thing. Not all rest is actually rest. Sometimes, what looks like recovery is really just escape in disguise. Think about it. Scrolling endlessly on your phone, zoning out in front of the TV for hours, or snacking on cookies at midnight. Do you wake up feeling restored? Or do you feel even more drained, with a side order of guilt? That's because your brain knows the difference between true rest and cheap distractions. Psychologists call this passive coping, when you try to numb your exhaustion instead of healing it. It's like pouring glitter on a cracked wall. It looks better for a moment, but the crack's still there, widening slowly. Real rest, on the other hand, is active. It's giving your nervous system a chance to reset. A quiet walk in the park, a 15-minute nap, listening to music with your eyes closed, or even sipping tea without rushing. Small, intentional pauses that recharge the system instead of numbing it. Think of it like water. Drinking a glass hydrates you. Chugging soda just makes you thirstier. Escape is soda. Rest is water. The more you choose the real thing, the longer your energy lasts. And here's the punchline. Escape makes life smaller because you avoid. Rest makes life bigger because you return stronger. So the next time you find yourself reaching for that third rerun of a show you don't even like, ask, am I resting or am I running away? The answer will tell you whether tomorrow feels lighter or heavier. Tiny recharge rituals. Let's be honest. When you're between 50 and 80, no one's asking you to climb Everest or run marathons to feel alive again. The truth is, energy comes back in tiny, almost silly-looking doses. Scientists call these micro-restorative moments, little practices that reset your nervous system without demanding hours of your day. Take this for example. Just 2 minutes of slow, deep breathing can lower cortisol levels, the stress hormone, by nearly 20%. That's like flipping the switch from fight or flight to rest and digest. Or consider daylight. A 10-minute walk in natural sunlight boosts serotonin, your brain's mood stabilizer, which is why sometimes standing on your porch feels more healing than finishing an entire self-help book. Here's another underrated ritual: laughter. Researchers at Loma Linda University found that older adults who watched a short comedy clip improved their memory scores and reduced stress hormones significantly. Yes, chuckling at a silly cat video might literally be medicine for your brain. Want something practical? Try this experiment for 1 week. Each morning, before touching your phone, sit quietly with a warm drink. 2 minutes. Just you and the cup. Midday, pause for a 10-minute walk, even if it's just around your living room or down the block. At night, write down 1 sentence about something that didn't drain you today. That's it. 1 line. Sounds small, almost trivial. But energy is not rebuilt in dramatic leaps. It's restored in these tiny, consistent rituals. Think of it like drops filling a bucket. 1 drop doesn't matter, but 100 drops over time can quench your thirst. So don't wait for a vacation or a miracle. Begin with 2 minutes, 10 steps. one laugh. Your body will notice. Your brain will thank you. The power of pause. Imagine driving your car full speed on the highway, never stopping for gas because you're too busy to refuel. Sounds ridiculous, right? Yet that's exactly how many of us treat our lives. We keep going, keep pushing, keep proving until the tank is bone dry. The irony? Pausing doesn't slow your progress. It extends it. Psychologists call it the recovery effect. Short pauses, whether that's a nap, meditation, or simply closing your eyes for a few breaths, actually boost focus and memory afterward. One study from the University of Michigan showed that adults who took brief mental breaks during tasks performed 40% better than those who powered through without stopping. In other words, rest isn't the enemy of productivity. It's the hidden fuel that here's the twist. Many people over 50 resist pausing because it feels like weakness. If I stop, maybe I won't start again. But the truth is, pausing is not quitting, it's pit stopping. Even professional athletes schedule downtime because they know muscles don't grow during training, they grow during recovery. Your life works the same way. Try reframing the pause. Instead of thinking, I'm losing time, think, I'm charging time. Sit by the window with a cup of tea. Lie down for 15 minutes without feeling guilty. Call it strategic pausing, because that's exactly what it is. Here's the punchline. The pause is not the opposite of progress. It's the secret engine behind it. Without the pause, the music is just noise. With it, life becomes rhythm again. Stories of comeback. Let me tell you about George. At 72, he sat in his living room one rainy afternoon, staring at the piano he hadn't touched in 15 years. Arthritis in his fingers, bad knees, and the quiet grief of losing his wife had convinced him he was finished. He told himself, "What's the point? My best years are behind me." But here's the twist. George wasn't broken. He was exhausted. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. His daughter convinced him to try something small. Just 5 minutes at the piano each day, nothing more. The first week, his fingers ached. The second week, his brain kept saying, "Stop, this is pointless." But after a month of these tiny, consistent pauses with music, something shifted. The exhaustion didn't vanish, but the joy began trickling back. By the third month, George was playing entire songs again, slowly, imperfectly, but with fire in his eyes. Science backs this up. Psychologists studying resilience in older adults found that recovery often comes not from giant leaps, but from small, meaningful engagements that restore purpose. It could be gardening, painting, cooking, or yes, playing piano for 5 minutes. These acts rewire the brain's reward system, giving you hits of dopamine that slowly rebuild motivation. George didn't become a concert pianist, but he found himself again. His story reminds us, rest doesn't always mean lying down. Sometimes it means returning, bit by bit, to the things that make your soul exhale. The next time you think you're done, remember George. Maybe you don't need to quit. Maybe you just need 5 quiet minutes with what you love. Reframe the struggle. Here's a radical thought. What if exhaustion isn't a sign of weakness, but a messenger? What if every time you feel drained, your body and mind are simply handing you a note that says, "Hey, time to adjust, not abandon"? The problem is, most of us misread the note. We translate "rest now" into "you failed." Psychologists call this catastrophic thinking, assuming temporary struggle equals permanent defeat. But neuroscience shows the opposite. When you rest, your brain enters something called the default mode network, a fancy way of saying daydream state. It's in this state that your brain quietly solves problems, makes connections, and restores creativity. That's why great ideas often come in the shower, not at your desk pounding the keyboard. Instead of seeing exhaustion as the end, what if you reframed it as a green traffic light to pause? Think of a bow and arrow. To shoot forward, you have to pull back first. The pull isn't regression, it's preparation. Your struggle, your pause, your fatigue. It could all be part of that backward pull. Here's a practical reframe you can try. The next time you catch yourself thinking, "I can't anymore," swap it with, "I'm in recharge mode." Same situation, different meaning. Language is powerful. It changes how your brain interprets reality. In fact, research shows that labeling emotions differently can reduce stress and increase resilience in older adults. Don't curse the struggle. Rename it. Because in truth, exhaustion isn't life shutting down on you. It's life reminding you. Pause, breathe, reset. Your arrow still has distance left to fly. Closing note. So let's land this plane together. You came here wondering if you were ready to quit, or if maybe, just maybe, you only needed rest. And now you've seen it. Your brain tricks you when it's tired. Your body whispers strange little SOS signals. And the line between "I'm done" and "I'm drained" is thinner than you thought. The truth is, quitting and resting are not the same. Quitting kills the story. Rest just turns the page. And every great story has pauses, moments where the hero gathers strength before stepping back into the fight. That hero can be you, even at 50, 60, 70, or 80. Especially then, because you carry the kind of wisdom that only comes with years of stumbling, rising, and stumbling again. The next time the heaviness shows up, don't ask, "Am I finished?" Ask, "What kind of rest do I need right now?" Maybe it's sleep. Maybe it's silence. Maybe it's 5 minutes at the piano or a walk under the trees. Whatever it is, give yourself permission. Because you don't have to end your story when all you need is a comma. Here's the final thought I'll leave with you. You don't actually want to give up. You just want the weight to lift. And that weight will lift not by quitting, but by resting deeper than you have in a long, long time. That's all for today. I will make more similar videos in the future. Please subscribe to watch.